The president of Panama says a North Korean ship has been caught trying to smuggle sophisticated missile equipment through the Panama Canal. Ricardo Martinelli said the ship was stopped on the Atlantic coast of Panama because it was suspected of carrying drugs. He says it was then that officials found the missile equipment. Mr. Martinelli says the ship's captain later tried to commit suicide and the ship's crew started rioting. The ship had left port in Cuba, one of Pyongyang's few allies, and was on its way back to North Korea. Let's get more perspective on this. Dr. Leonid Petrov is a lecturer in Korean Studies with the Australian National University. He joins us now for more. Dr. Petrov, in some ways you're not too surprised about the fact that this ship was captured.
Well, it's not the first time North Korean boats, vessels are being inspected. That's what the so-called Proliferation Initiative is designed for. Started in 2003, this non-proliferation initiative was supposed to search every North Korean vessel and to see what's inside, what they might be trading with, because North Korea is the country which is under sanctions, international, multilateral, bilateral sanctions, and its international trade is heavily impeded. So what they do, what they trade with, still remains a mystery, and everyone is curious.
So how often then are North Korean ships sailing the world seas carrying these sorts of goods?
Well, the most recent case of, still unresolved case, what was really on North Korean boat, we still don't know, but it was in 2009 when an American American Navy was trying to pursue the North Korean boat going from the port of Nampo in West Sea towards Myanmar. The chase continued for a number of days, and the North Korean vessel simply turned around and returned home. But suspicions were that they were trying to deal with Myanmar military and sell its missile equipment, something what North Koreans are really good at, and they need to sell, and they need some cash, they need some exchange, foreign exchange, and that's the only way they can get it.
Now tell us about this particular type of equipment that was found on this ship. Does it constitute something particularly dangerous, and why this sort of reaction from the ship's crew?
It's interesting that, as you mentioned, the president of Panama, Ricardo Martinelli, has already posted a photograph of what was found on board of the North Korean boat Cheongcheongang. It looks like, and experts say, it looks like an anti-ship missile, which means it's a short-range missile. It's not a ballistic type of weapons, which is subject to United Nations Security Council resolutions. Still, experts must look much closer and see what else might be there, because the container in which this missile was found was hiding in sugar consignment. So obviously the crew was trying to hide this illicit cargo. They did not declare this type of weapon which was on board. So it's not just a case of violating the international sanctions imposed against North Korea, but also simply the customs regulation of Panama.
And if there in fact has been a violation, what's next?
Well, we already know the case of Pongsu, the boat, North Korean ship, which was detained in South Australian waters, well, actually chased by Royal Australian Navy, and somewhere near Sydney it was apprehended. In the year 2003, the North Korean crew was unloading a large cargo of heroin. So it was caught on shore, but the captain and the crew refused that they had anything to do with that. And ultimately, after 2 years of trial in Melbourne, the North Korean crew was acquitted. The boat, Pongsu, was destroyed not far from Sydney, but the crew returned and was repatriated back to North Korea. Maybe this is going to be the case this time. We know that the crew rioted at the moment of the search. The captain tried to commit suicide. All this leads us to some suspicions of the involvement. But if nothing else is found there, it would be very difficult to prove that North Korean captain, the crew, and probably North Korean authorities have anything to do with that.
All right, Leonid Petrov from ANU, thanks for your perspective this evening.
Thank you for inviting me.